Hi. How's everyone doing today? Good. Okay, so let me just introduce myself. Hello, my name is Cody Yoa, not Yoda, but Yoa, and welcome to my presentation. So, a show of hands, how many of you guys know someone that has autism? Okay, excluding myself. Okay, you sir. Is this person a family or a friend of yours?
Yeah, friend.
A friend, okay. Anybody else that knows someone? All right,
Couple
you?
friends, yeah.
A couple of friends. You?
My son.
Your son?
Okay.
And you?
Family members, friends.
Okay. So it's pretty common that a lot of people know someone with autism. So it's very common. So to begin with my presentation, that's if this thing starts working. There we go. I'm going to talk a little bit about myself personally, because first of all, I have autism or Asperger syndrome. So I was born on February 20th, 1994, which was basically a month after the 1994 Northridge earthquake. And I was born with the full name Cody King Joa by my Cuban mother and my Asian father. So I'm half Chinese and half Cuban, but for the sake of continuity, I'm gonna call myself Cubanese for this one. A combination. So I like combining things. But between the ages of 1 to 4, around toddler years, I don't remember as much. But when I was 4, a lot of people, my mom just realized that I kind of like acted different. Not in a bad way, but more in a positive way. Something that she hasn't seen before. Sorry for the seats in the back. We're running out of seats right now, but just hang in there. So right now I actually have a video to show you when I was like 4 years old, so that way you guys have a good idea of what it was like. You guys can see?
Yeah.
1 inch cube. So hopefully this plays.
Hi, Daddy.
Say hi, Mama.
Hi, Mama.
Can you tell me how to spell cow?
C-O-W,
Okay, how do you spell cat?
C-A-T, cat.
All right, how do you spell dog?
D-O-G, dog.
Okay.
Water.
All right, how do you spell Cody?
C-O-D-Y, Cody.
Okay, look at Mama. Look over here, though, okay? How do you spell horse?
H-O-R-E, horse.
No, how do you...
E, horse.
No. How do you spell horse? Say it again.
H-O-R-A-E, horse.
Good job. How do you spell Kokomo?
K-O-K-O-A-O.
Good job. You're smart, huh?
G.
Yeah. You're a big boy?
Yeah.
Is Cody 4?
4.
How many is 4? Show me 4.
1, 2, 4. That's 8.
That's an egg, yeah. Say bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Besitos. Love you.
Love you.
One more. How do you spell Kokomo?
K-O-K-O-A-O. Kokomo.
Good job. Woohoo. Say bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
So basically that was me at the age of 4. Something that my mom was very proud of recording. The reason why is because when I was a kid, that was, I guess for someone with autism, I guess this is, for a child, basically it's really important because first of all, I spelled Kokomo, you know, the place that you want to go. It's an old Beach Boys song, but she was very impressed because I was spelling at the age of 4, which I don't know if it's common for kids to spell something like that, but anyway. So basically that was me. I didn't have a lot of eye contact. So basically I would like look at something that, you know, whatever interests me. Like for example, I might be interested in that clock right now. And I will focus on that. It doesn't mean that I'm ignoring you, it's just the fact that I want to pay as much attention to that clock. About the second hand going like this, and then the hour and then the minute hand. So yeah. Now the transition from when I was a toddler to when I was a child. I went to a public elementary school, and it was one of the worst years there. I was bullied, I was teased, humiliated. not by just the students, but sometimes the teachers, which they didn't really treat me well. And I remember I didn't have a lot of friends. I like to play by myself, like, you know, just basically play by myself, just with toys and all. Kind of like I have this really big imagination, and I always like imagine myself either flying or like, you know, being super fast and all. And so I didn't really make as much friends. So a lot of kids teased me. And I remember in my 6th grade, I got myself my yearbook, and I had like kids sign it. And all it says is, good luck in middle school, you're gonna die, you're not gonna last 1 minute, 1 hour when you step into the school. I apologize if there's no seats.
It's all good.
Okay. I just feel bad because I was trying to get bigger room, but anyway. So I was homeschooled when I was in middle school, and that hit off. As a kid in middle school, I didn't have a lot of social interactions, as you could tell. Like, I had a couple friends over, but that was kind of it. And so there was not a lot of social interactions between my peers and basically just my peers. And then my mom made the big choice of pushing me to go into public high school, in which I hated it. I really hated it. Until my mom's friend basically told me to go to this high school that's focused on arts, technology, and academics. And I went there, I got accepted. It's a magnet school, so they basically accept students over there. And basically what happened was I got in. And I have to admit, it was really great. I met some really great people, really great friends. My autism, I started telling people about my autism, and for a lot of people it shocked them because they would never think that I would have autism. I'm not sure if you guys can tell, but that's what I have. But yeah, like, as the years went by, my social interactions got better. I made a lot of good friends. I got a GPA of a 3.94 in high school, which is nothing to now since we're in college and your GPA starts now with Silch. But I got honors in animation, which that's what I'm pursuing right now. And just a little fun fact, I was prom king for 1 year. It was funny too because my middle name is King, just like, so it's like the prophecy is fulfilled, you know, whatever. But yeah, it was a really fun year, and I really did enjoy it. And now, currently, I'm here at Moore Park College, and my experiences here are okay. I met some great professors, I met some mediocre to okay professors, I met some good staff, some bad staff, and good students and bad students. It's kind of life. You know, we have to deal with life as, you know, you meet some of the greatest people in the world, and then you have to deal with some of the worst people in the world. And, you know, I'm kind of thankful that, you know, this college has taught me a lot about this. Now, this is my presentation. So, to begin with, what does this have to do with what connections? How does this connect to Multicultural Day? Well, 1% of the world's population has autism. So basically, we're making a rough estimate of 7.4 billion people in this world. Now, 1% of 7.4 billion is basically 74 million people that have autism. That's a lot of people. In the UK and Canada, 1 in 100 children have autism. And it varies between different places. A study in Japan shows an increase in autism when they discontinued the MMR vaccines. The study has shown the triple after the ban in 1992. As you can see from this graph. Okay. So the yellow line right here is basically the MMR vaccines that they've given to children. And down here is basically all autism spectrum disorders, autism, and then regression. When they discontinued it in 1992, it has spiked up, which is very fascinating because one of the controversial topics is vaccine caused autism here in the U.S. From what it looks like, I don't think so. Yes?
What is the MMR vaccination?
MMR vaccines is basically measles, mumps, and rubella. Basically all combined at once. And what Japan has done is basically separated. So now it's just, they give the kids individually rather than all three at once. So now they give individually to measles, and then maybe later mumps, and then later rubella. But they don't give it at the same time. The reason why they discard the vaccines is because about roughly 2 million children develop non-viral meningitis and other adverse reactions. So just a little fact about that. And autism as in itself is its own subculture. Basically, it's a little bit of subculture. It's a cultural group within a larger culture, often having beliefs or interests at variance with those of a larger culture. So basically, our interest always varies. Like, there's maybe someone that's really into cars, someone that's into video games, someone that's into like houses, whatever. But we can all connect because and again, it's really hard to explain to someone. But I guess, let's say, a person with autism were to rock, which is very common in a lot of kids with autism. Now, for someone, they might think, well, I don't know what they're doing, it's very repetitive. Or for someone with autism, they might realize it's like, okay, maybe this is a relaxing mechanism. Maybe this is for them to relax. So in a way, we understand each other. And it's really weird. And fascinating. So in itself, it's its own subculture. So basically, what I'm going to be discussing about today is about what is autism, the origins, basically who discovered it and what have they done to help people with autism, and basically the symptoms, treatments, and possible causes of autism. So to begin with, let's talk about what is autism. It is also known as pervasive developmental disorder. It is a neurodevelopment which affects emotion, learning ability, self-control, and memory. It's a neurodevelopment disorder that begins in childhood and causes problems in forming relationships and in communicating with other people. Basically, what I'm doing right now is one of the hardest things for someone with autism. That's basically like talking to people or even talking to a big group like this. For your English majors out there, autism derives from the Greek word auto, meaning self. So again, we're really into ourselves. For example, I'm into video games. I collect old video games, new video games. I have all the consoles, I have all the handheld video games, I have it all. You name it, I have it. And it fascinates me, it just fascinates me for different reasons. Like, I know another person that's fascinated with shoes. And they can tell what type of shoe it is, they know how much it is in the market. It's really crazy. Like, all these people are fascinated by different things. And that's what fascinates autism in itself. Also, autism can be confused with schizophrenia. Now, a little definition is that it's a brain disorder in which people interpret reality abnormally. So basically, they get confused with, like, let's say, the poor eye contact. Maybe they're looking at something else for a minute, like what I'm doing right now. Someone with schizophrenia might be talking to that abnormal person, maybe like an imaginary friend or something, but that's not the case with autism. They're more likely just to focus on something. For example, when I was in speech therapy, my teacher said, let's just say I'm the therapist, speech therapist. I'm sitting she's sitting right here while I'm sitting on the other side. I'm doing the speech therapy with the child and with I'm doing speech therapy with my therapist. I'm trying to get that in my head. And literally, I wasn't focusing on her. I was actually focusing on a poster behind her. And the poster was sign language. So I basically learned sign language in that matter of time of that whole therapy. And my mom knows that. My mom took classes of American Sign Language, and she knew what I was doing. She knew what I was saying in sign language, and I was like 4, 5, something like that. And so she went to the therapist to like wonder like why am I doing this? And all of a sudden she sees the poster of the whole alphabet in sign language. And so they took that poster off and they took every other poster off just so I could focus on the speech therapist. So I just found that to be fascinating about that. So let's talk statistics, even though that's not my favorite subject. But sorry for you stats major. In the U.S. alone, 1 in 68 children are diagnosed with some form of autism. And so basically, that is roughly 3.5 million people in the U.S. that have autism. That's a lot of people. If we were to relocate every single autistic person, it would be the exact same population as Connecticut. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of people with autism. Autism has increased in the U.S. by 119.4% from 2000 to now. In 2000, the statistics were 1 in 150. Now, that's a huge difference right there. 1 in 150 compared to 1 in 68. That's a lot of people we're talking about. Boys are 5 times more likely to get autism than girls. Why? I don't know. It's $1 million question right there. It's like going to Who Wants to Be a Millionaire and like trying to guess on it, and the answer is still unknown. But yeah, boys are more likely to get autism than girls. That's why you see, like in a lot of movies, boys have more autism. You see boys that have autism rather than girls. So now that you have an idea about what is autism, let's go back in time when autism was first diagnosed. I like to call this the origin of autism, the history that leads to today. So the first person to discover autism is a doctor named Dr. Buchanan. First, some history. He was born in Klettotal, Austria on June 13, 1894. He got his medical degree in 1919 and joined the staff of a mental hospital in Yankton, South Dakota. During his time there, he wrote articles on medical health. How did he discover autism? Well, in 1943, Buchanan observed the behavior of 11 children. One of the patients, Donald T., seemed to be self-satisfied, show no apparent affection when petted, meaning with affection or favoritism. Does not observe the fact that anyone comes or goes, and never seems glad to see his father, mother, or playmate. Buchanan diagnosed Donald with Kanner syndrome, which later turned to become known as autism today. Now, it's kind of weird that there's someone similar that has the same signatures of Donald T. Probably someone in the presidential race. I don't know. Like, I'm not commenting on anything. You know, it's just maybe it's a coincidence. Fortunately, he doesn't have it. It's actually a kid named Donald Gray Triplett. He is the first kid to be diagnosed with autism. Enough about presidential debate. Donald Gray Triplett is the first kid diagnosed with autism. He was born in 1933 in Forest, Mississippi. Donald could speak and mimic words. He repeated words like trumpet fly and chrysanthemum. And what are those? It's basically flowers. One of them is probably a scientific term, while the other one is just a nickname. And as well as the phrase, I could put a little comma. So basically he would just repeat that all the time. He wasn't interested in the other children. With all that said, he was listening and he was very, very smart. He sang back carols. He heard from his mother sing once while keeping a perfect pitch. Try to beat that American Idol. He remembered a set of beads his father had, and he recalled that same order. For example, it could be like the beads had like an X and then a cross and then a circle, whatever. He could remember that exact pattern that his father's beads had, and just remember it. In mid-1937, Donald was sent away at the age of 3 to an institution where the family saw Donald monthly. Donald's parents debated if they should bring him home instead of him being institutionalized. And that's what they did. They brought him home in 1938, in which they took him to Kanner and diagnosed Donald with autism. So you're probably wondering, is he still alive today? Yes, he's alive. He's 82 years old. After his diagnosis, he went to a regular high school and a regular college and majored in French and mathematics. Now, it's very common for a kid with autism to like math. But again, it could vary depending on the child. Like, I know some people with autism that don't like math. That's fine. The next person who studied around the time when Kenner diagnosed Donald with autism was a guy named Dr. Hans Hassburger. He was born in Austria-Hungary in 1906. He obtained his medical degree in 1931. In 1934, his career developed when he moved to the psychiatric hospital in Leipzig, Germany. He studied 200 families with children similar to Kenner's study, except the children did not have a severe language delay. He published his studies in 1994, which was later translated by an English doctor by Lorna Wigg in 1981, which is all dedicated to Dr. Hans Hassburger, in which that's why I have Asperger's syndrome. The next doctor on the list is Dr. Bruno Bettelmann. He was born in Vienna, Austria. I don't know why a lot of these doctors are born in Austria. Maybe it's common, I don't know. Maybe the A in Austria, I don't know. He was born in Vienna, Austria in 1903. He was a child psychologist who had a controversial theory about autism. He believed autism was caused by cold-hearted mothers. Yeah, try to make that sense. If you don't give your child enough love, they might have autism. But, however, it was debunked that by an American psychologist named Bernard Greenland, who actually had a son with autism. He never believed Dr. Bettelmann's theory, and he's the one that discovered that autism is a neurological disorder, not an illness. So maybe his cold-hearted mother theory is now thought, or whatever. Yes?
So what's the difference, I'm sorry, between Asperger's, a form of autism?
Yeah, Asperger's is basically a mild functioning form of autism. That's what I have.
Okay.
And autism is a little bit more severe in a sense. So, yeah, if you guys have any questions, you guys can ask me throughout the whole presentation and I'll answer you, okay? The next doctor, the last doctor is probably the most important doctor, Dr. Ole Ivar Novas. He and Greenland weren't born in Austria. Actually, he was born in Norway. Close enough. He earned his PhD in psychology at the University of Washington. He is the first doctor to discover that for some kids, autism is treatable. He drew an idea from the treatment called applied behavior analysis, which I will actually explain later on. But it's a behavior modification technique to treat social and psychological problems. The Lovelace method emphasized intense repetition. He worked with his patients up to 35 to 40 hours per week alongside the child's parents, so that way they have an idea on what to do. During his study, I would say the result of it was that 47% made remarkable progress, 42% made significant improvement, and 11% made no recovery. His study worked depending on the child. Maybe it worked, maybe it didn't work. Again, it's just all in a matter of trying. Now that you know the history of autism, let's jump right back into the different symptoms, interventions, and cause. I like to call this the identify, the help, and the cause, possibility. So, to begin with, let's start with the infants. At 12 months old, they may not babble, gesture, point, or wave goodbye. At 16 months, they may not use any single words, while at 24 months, they might not use word phrases. Between the ages of 12 to 24, they may lose language or social skills. They may have no response to their name, excessive lining up of toys and objects, or basically not even smiling. Now, as a kid between the ages of 12 to 12, around that time, like I did smile. My mom said I smiled a lot, and that was a good thing. My mom thought I was deaf because I didn't respond to my name. And it's not the fact that I was ignoring her or anything, it's just the fact that I'm interested in something else at the moment. But, oh, sorry. So that's that. And then I had this story in 2nd grade. I remember having these blocks of toys, like these wooden blocks of toys in 2nd grade. And my teacher took a picture of me. I can't find the picture, but I remember lining up these toys, these wooden blocks on the floor. And I would literally imagine myself if it were like a go-kart race or something. That was just in my imagination. Like it wasn't just because like I just love lining up stuff. It's just the fact that I just imagine it. And again, it varies depending on the child. And so, and then, yeah, I just lined up a lot of stuff. And it could be vertical, it could be horizontal. It just all depends.
Is there a reason for that?
The reason? Well, my reason was that I just imagined that as a kid, like I just kind of like did that just for, you know, for my own imagination. For reasons we don't know yet, they just like lining up stuff.
Excuse me?
Yes?
Did you find it calming for you? Was it like a calming mechanism?
Yeah, it wasn't very calming. Like I remember as a kid, like I just lined up stuff and it was just very calming. It was like, a lot of the things, a lot of the symptoms up here are just very calming for at least some people with autism. And that was one of them. In that sense, autism is like a Rubik's Cube. There's different, every person that has autism is always different. Like a Rubik's Cube, you can mix it as much as you want, but it's always different every single time you mix it. Now, the transition from an infant, let's go to a child and adult. Now, a lot of these I will probably give examples from my own personal experience, so yeah. One of them, they may be sensitive to senses. Now, an example of me is that I hate loud noises. And when there's a lot of people talking, it's just like, if you play like 20 YouTube videos of like anything, and just try to focus on one, it's just so overwhelming. And I hate it when I go like to Universal, Disneyland, like any of those places, just because there's so much noise. It's like you hear like the copyrighted music from Disneyland and Universal, and then you hear people talking, and then you hear people like saying order, like, and it's just like so much that I can't handle it. And another thing I have is sensitive to taste. There are some foods, some textures that I have a hard time digesting. And I actually have a story for that. I was at my girlfriend's house for Easter, and I was telling her family and friends that I'm very sensitive to foods. And that you could blindfold me, and you could give me food of whatever you guys want. The end result, I didn't like olives, I didn't like artichokes, the only thing that I actually liked about the whole process was blue cheese. That was weird. Because a lot of people say, oh, blue cheese, that's like the worst cheese out there. I thought it was fine, tasty cheese, whatever. But then again, like, and I'm very repetitive of what I eat a lot of pasta, spaghetti, like any type of macaroni, fettuccine, whatever. Like, I'm all into spaghetti. That's just me. There's some kids that might be into like other things like Jello or, you know, any of that stuff. But yeah, I just have a very sensitive to taste. Fun fact-ish. But they're distressed with routines. Some children to adults get distressed when routines are changed. I have a whole schedule of my whole day, basically. I wake up at 6:30. I get out of bed at 7:30. Feed my youngest brother, who's 10. Walk into school. I usually come back at 8. Have the bus pick me up. Well, take the dogs out to go to the bathroom at 9. Get the bus to pick me up at 10. Go to class. Basically walk around, talk. My mom picks me up at 4. I go home. I basically kind of like do my homework and then go to bed exactly like at 9, 10, or 11. If any of that is disturbed, I will start to freak out. I would get anxiety. It would just like, I don't know, it just really gets me worried. It's like, because I'm always because here in America, time is of the essence, right? whether it's a workplace or anything. Yeah.
Do you think that your schedule is going to get super disrupted when you get your license?
What do you mean?
I know you're in the process of trying to get your driver's license right now. Do you think any part of your schedule will get disrupted if you are able to drive yourself to school?
Well, I think the earlier the better, wouldn't you think? Am I right? That's another thing. Right now, I don't have my license, and one of the things I've been doing is basically walking. Nothing more but walking. And I walked from Thousand Oaks to Simi Valley 3 times in the summer on a hot day, 102 degrees. I don't recommend it. If you have a car, just drive. But yeah, I would do that because I don't have a license. But right now, I'm actually in the process of actually getting my driver's license. I actually have a test this Friday, the behind the wheels driving test. Right, April?
Right. I'm an instructor.
There you go. So right now, I'm in the process of that. I'm actually really proud. I'm just a little bit nervous, but yeah, I'm actually really excited about that. So another thing is that they do a lot of repeat body movement again. Repeat body movements, rocking, maybe like a twitch or something. It's nothing like personal, it's just the fact that they're just relaxed. It's their comforting stuff. A lot of kids like to rock just to like calm themselves. That's why you see them probably in the corner just rocking. Or maybe like move. Or has any of you guys seen Rayman?
Yeah.
The movie Rayman? Where, his relaxing is like this, and he's basically like walking back and forth like this. It's just his relaxing. It's just him relaxing. That's it. Nothing personal. Unusual attachment to an object. Now, but let's just say for a kid, they have like a toy car. Now, a regular kid or a kid without autism would, play with the car, while as someone would say with autism, they will actually turn the car around and just play with the wheel, which is basically unusual for a lot of people, but they just like to play with the wheel because it fascinates them. It's because they want to know why it works. And this could go for any type of object. But for me, I'm really into video games, so I like to look at the controller, see how it works, how it functions, what it does to different games, all that stuff. Basically, they cannot start or maintain a conversation. Now, as a kid, I had a hard time with that when it comes to talking or starting or maintaining, but as the years went by, it has gotten a lot better, as you can probably tell. Like there's some things I probably need to fix, but whatever. But it's still in the process of that. They communicate with gestures, basically moving their hands back and forth, maybe when they're talking, maybe like a kick or something, I don't know. Like people with autism are very different, and it all varies depending on the child. They may develop a little language. Now, as a kid, I didn't really talk a lot. I was like 4 when I was diagnosed by my mother, who actually researched it online, and then I was diagnosed by a real doctor at the age of 6, 7, and so I didn't talk a lot. So the only thing that helped me to get me to talk was Sesame Street and the Muppets. Sesame Street is one of my favorite shows, just because they make me teach letters, numbers, all that stuff, and Muppets just made me learn to laugh. Because they're just so goofy. But basically, and then, I started talking, as you could tell from that video before, was that I just kind of talked. And they realized around the time I was tongue-tied, so that was a big issue, and then after that I started talking. They repeat words. Now this is a thing, now they're basically like, for some people with autism, they may be like parrots. Like for example, if someone were to say like "ow," they repeat it like "ow." They're like a parrot. Whatever you say, they will say. So just be careful. Very careful, because you don't want your kid to say like a profanity word and all sort, and they don't mean it. Yes.
How young do they start repeating words?
How young? Again, it varies on the child. Like I remember like watching let's say I was watching Toy Story. Okay, Toy Story was around the time Toy Story was around. Now a person with autism would say to infinity and beyond like 50 times. Who wouldn't? It's badass. Who wouldn't? But anyway, that's what they would do. It's not the fact that they're purposely doing it, it's just the fact that it's just, it's their favorite line. I mean, we probably should, you guys have some favorite lines from movies, right? That are probably PG appropriate because I'm going to post this on the internet soon for everyone to see. Yeah, that's my camera's over there, that's my girlfriend over there, so. Everyone say hi, Sarah.
Hi.
So yeah, I'll be posting that on the internet soon for everyone to see. Usually the poor eye contact. This was the one that was big for me because as a kid, from the video, I had poor eye contact. I would like jump up and like kind of like look around. But again, what my mom would do for that is, tell me if this is logical. She would tell me, I can't hear you if you look at me. That's what she would do, and I would like literally focus on that. Not sure if the logic makes any sense, but it worked as a kid. And for some people say that the most perfect eye contact in the world. My mom doesn't think so, but why? Because she's my mother, she knows me. But for some people, they think that the most perfect eye contact out there. Right now. Another one is that they might play alone. This is one of the things, is because they like to interact by themselves. They like to be their own superhero or super villain or whatever. I'm just thinking of Marvel movies right now, but usually they would just like to play alone. They don't like anybody to interact, unless if it's probably someone that has autism. And I know several people in my life that have autism, and they're the greatest friends. And they're really great. They withdraw from participation. That's another thing. As a kid, I didn't like to play like kickball or like what were other sports in elementary school. But usually I just withdraw myself from participation just because I wasn't active. Like I didn't like to do a lot of things. I just kind of did my own thing. Basically do my own thing. They cover their ears when there's no more noise. Okay, so this happens when I'm around concerts. I usually cover my ears, or actually a movie theater. That's a good sense, because in movie theaters they have to play it loud because it's a movie theater and everyone has to hear. Even grandma has to hear. And no offense to grandmas, but but what I would do, I would just basically cover my ears the whole time. And this goes to like movies, concerts, or even theme parks, because there's just so much noise. And it kind of eliminates some of the unnecessary noise out there. They have moderate to intense tantrums. As a kid, I actually did have tantrums, but then again, I don't know anybody that hasn't had tantrums, but again, possibilities are endless. But I used to have tantrums whenever someone's saying happy birthday. That was the thing that I for some reason hate. Not today, it's gotten a lot better, but just, I guess, I don't know, I just had tantrums for some reason. Whether if it's something minute or something, well, it's mostly a lot of things that I guess had tantrums was minute. Because again, as a 10-year-old, when someone says, I'm gonna tell on you, everyone starts freaking out. But as an adult, it's like, no, I don't care. But yeah, they get stuck on the single topic. Okay, I could go on and on and on about video games and would not stop there. I could talk to you about the history, I could talk to you about who developed the games, I could talk to you about the background. I could go on forever, but I'm not, since we're going to be sticking to autism. That's going to be for my next presentation, but no. That's if. And then they might be highly sensitive to outside stimuli. Now, my old high school teacher, who's like my hero to me, I was talking to her about this, and it was actually part of my senior project, which is basically this. Anybody that went to my high school knows what this is. Yeah. Basically, what this is all my research that I've done for autism when I was when I was 18. All of this, all these papers in here. So like after class, if you guys want to look at it, you know, get a little glimpse at it, there you go. But inside there, my old teacher was talking about outside stimulus. Like there's some kids with autism that can see that we cannot see. And they say that it's amazing. Something that you and I cannot see. Something that you can't see and I can't see. Something that like savants or some other people with autism can see. And they say that's amazing. I don't know what it is because I don't have that, but what I do have is photographic memory, and which is very good for when it comes to tests or like anything school related. Basically, I take a picture and it kind of develops like those old dark rooms in high school or college. But yeah. So now that you guys know some of the symptoms, there are several interventions and therapies to decrease the symptoms of autism. Now, there's applied behavior analysis, there's dietary, there's biomedical, there's pharmacological, and there are different therapies such as speech, occupational, and behavioral. So, the first one we're going to look at is applied behavior analysis. Applied behavior analysis is a method of teaching that is often used to help children with autistic spectrum disorders. It is used to teach complex communications, social, play, and self-help skills. The child is basically rewarded with something that he or she likes to do. So in an example like this, it would be, let's say, just basically communication, social, play, and self-help. Basically all that stuff. And inside those, inside applied behavior analysis, is discrete trial training, pivotal response teaching, and applied verbal behavior. So discrete trial training gives the child a clear message as to what is expected and will let the child know if it's correct and applicable. And so I'm going to have you guys play a little game. Point to the red. Point to the blue. Good. Now, welcome to the easiest game ever. But basically, with discrete trial training, this is what will happen. I would say point to the red, I will point to it, and then everybody else will point. Good. Point to the blue, again, repeat. And then there's partial. Point to the red. Point to the blue. You're giving subtle hints in the direction of which one's the correct one. And then it's all independence from there, whether if they learn or not. Now, the other being is, what happens if they get it wrong? Well, like let's say with a teacher, it's like, oh, what is 2 + 2? Someone said 5. Nope, you're wrong, next, you know. But with this, they try to correct the behavior as much as possible. Negative, if you tell the child's incorrect, they might not gonna learn. So you gotta head them towards the right answer. So that's when it comes to discrete trial training. And thank you for playing the easiest game ever. The other one is pivotal response training. It's pivotal response teaching, sorry. It's a more naturalistic and motivational procedures to increase appropriate developmental behaviors. It is created to teach the trained parents to engage their children at home and their community. Now, I remember being at a park. This was many years ago. I was flying my kite. No, not a kite. It was a plane. And the plane lost control since it kind of like lost its boundaries. And I remember this guy grabbed the controller out of my mom's hand. He ran across the street just to get it and then just came back with the airplane, all in the same piece. We returned that product the next day, but that's not the story. The father had a son with autism, and basically what happened was that I guess he found out that the family found out that their child had autism, and they denied him. They kind of like were in denial, which is pretty common with that. And what they would do is kind of like let him do his own thing, and not him be social, interactive, all that stuff. And so my mom is the greatest person to me because she's helping. What she would do, or what she told him, was that you need to get your child out there. You gotta get him active. You gotta get him to know what the real world's like. And then we never saw that guy again until when my mom was working at a childcare where she actually saw the guy again, and he started crying. He says like, my mom's a hero, saying like she has changed my whole this family's life because of one decision of actually having your child be taken out from the house, not letting him do his own thing, and actually be active. It's very interesting. Verbal behavior focuses on teaching verbal behavior. Focuses on teaching basically the verbal behavior through a collection of highly effective teaching procedures. And it consists of 2 to 4 hour sessions, 3 to 5 times weekly. So basically, verbally taught. Another one is dietary intervention. A dietary intervention can consist of gluten-free, casein-free diet, or feeding therapy. Now, gluten is basically wheat, and then casein is mostly found in milk. On the diet, everyone knows what gluten-free is because that's like everywhere now. So casein-free is basically milk-free, anything milk-related. So it actually improves communication, social interaction, and sleep patterns, reducing digestive problems and autistic behavior. Now, I eat a lot of gluten, so this method is not for me. I eat a lot of pasta, I drink a lot of milk, so it just didn't work for me. However, what they could eat is meat, chicken, eggs, fruits, and vegetables. 3 things that I don't like on this. So, like, I like eggs and fruit, so that's good. And then there's other one is a feeding therapy. It's really good for the child because a lot of autistic children have oral sensitivity. And again, like what I mentioned about the Easter story, about how I was very sensitive to foods, it's good to have children with autism try new things. It's not good to be like repetitive. Like I eat pasta all the time, not breakfast, lunch, dinner, every single day. And I've been trying to expand that. I like eat hot dogs, hamburgers, sushi. Like I'm trying to expand my possibilities out there. If the parents do not take this therapy for their child may get malnutrition, which is basically lack of nutrition, which can lead up to a feeding tube. This is the most severe case. Very severe, very rare. And this happens on rare occasions. So, yeah. The next intervention is biomedical. Biomedical is at or relating to both biology and medicine. There is no consistent research or consensus if it's effective or not. They help chelation, which proved to be effective. Well, what's chelation? Chelation is a treatment used in conventional medicine to remove heavy metals from the bodies. Basically, like right now, like there's this whole debate if mercury is the one that's causing autism, which is what people assume that's in MMR vaccines. And what mercury does is that it kind of like damages some of the brain cells. And so with chelation, it kind of helps remove some of it before it becomes permanent or it gets worse.
How did they do it? How did they do chelation? What is that?
They're actually
Your blood or what?
Yeah, what it does is that I guess they put like the chelation inside the bloodstream, because that's where a lot of the metals come from. And that metal goes into the blood goes automatically to the brain, so they're trying to prevent that from happening.
How do they do that?
Probably shots. Like they probably like insert chelation inside the bloodstream.
So you might get into this on causes, but so forgive me if I'm jumping ahead, but it relates to this. So what is the research now that conclusion about immunizations? You touched on it a little bit.
Yes. Recently.
You know, Jenny McCarthy was really big on you shouldn't give your kids shots because it causes autism. she and Jim Carrey were big on that for a while.
And yes, that was a big thing around my time. My mom believes that. But from what I've researched, MMR vaccines do not cause autism. There's no mercury inside the vaccine. And
Could it be something else besides mercury in the vaccine causing that?
that's the million-dollar question that everyone's trying to find. And so far, nobody has found what really causes it. But I will get to causes later. Did anybody have a question? Yes?
I was recently reading an academic journal stating that there were some researches done that led people to believe that auditory influences led people to have developmental disorders. Now, obviously, you had a lot of influence from video games. I love video games. It's always been a passion. So obviously, you could easily say that maybe that would be beneficial or negative. What do you think about that, is my question.
Repeat the question again.
With an auditory influence, do you think that would be good or bad? Something like playing a video game or an influx of technology in your day-to-day. You know what I mean? That's been the new cause of the 21st century. We have a huge influx of technology.
Right.
And a lot of people are analyzing how that affects the development of a child.
Well, actually, technology is very good for people with autism since for some of them, they don't talk. And so what they would do is that they will have like a, what is that thing, what Stephen Hawking has? But like one of those kind of like talk, what Stephen Hawking has. They would basically like type it in and then it would say whatever they say. Now, like there were some stories about this on the internet where kids usually just types down stuff and then the words come out like saying like, oh, I can't talk, but I understand everything. And they said like, oh, my parents think I'm mentally challenged and they that I'm never going to understand it. It's really sad, but yeah, technology is really good for children with autism.
Good.
Thank you, Peter. The last intervention is pharmacologic, basically medicine. So far, there is no current medication for autism. However, it is treated for other disorders with similar symptoms, which can be effective. So just to clear, there's no medication that can there's no medication for autism. However, you can decrease the symptom of autism. Same thing for like ADHD or with Ritalin. On to the 3 different therapies: speech, occupational, and behavior. I actually took speech when I was in elementary school, and I didn't want to block this. And basically with speech, it would be like more like ch or basically just trying to make the child like say the correct word, like chair, seat, table, whatever. But that's speech. Occupational is more of like everyday activities, like putting on your clothes, brushing your teeth, eating, making yourself food. Basically all that stuff is occupational, what we need in our life. And then behavior is just making sure that it's the correct behavior, making sure you're happy, making sure that you're sad, showing emotions. Now that's the thing with autism, is that they have a hard time showing emotions. Or expressing, not show. Expressing and showing. Like, they have a hard time expressing that. They might, let's say, be happy for something that's sad. That's not appropriate. But, it's just that fact of learning. Basically. So.
What about depression? Do they deal with depression?
Yes, a lot of kids deal with depression. I deal with depression. When I was a teenager, I've dealt with depression. Why? Because there's been a lot of bullies in my life. But we feel the emotion. It's just kind of hard with the output's completely different. Like sometimes I'm happy. My mom says, "Are you angry?" And I was like, "No, why?" I said, "You look angry. You're not like this." And it's like, and so it's hard for me to use the correct emotion on the exterior rather than in the interior.
Mm-hmm.
And so the last one is basically causes. So far, there's no real clue what causes autism. However, there have been several theories, which are just basically 3 guesses. One of them being the digestive tract. For some, they cannot digest gluten or casein food, so the body absorbs toxic byproducts, which is why that intervention of gluten-free and casein-free diets is ineffective with the intervention. Some of them may be one of them could be enabled to properly use vitamins and minerals in their system. Again, it's a guess, we don't really know. And then the function and structure of the central nervous system, the body may inappropriately produce antibodies that can attack the brain. So that's one of the causes. And the last one that's been recently debunked was basically vaccinations, in which that has been proved again and again and again to not cause autism. And I think we need to get people to know that. Yes?
So I know you were saying that they can attack your brain. So does that mean that it can get worse over time, autism, or does it like you get autism and that's how it's going to be for the rest of your life?
It's more like you have autism. It's more like that you have autism rather than you got it from some antibody.
Well, I'm just saying, like, yeah, I know you got autism, and that's like the level of autism that you'll have for the rest of your life, or does it progressively get worse as you get older?
Oh, it doesn't get progressively worse.
Okay.
It just basically stays the same. Now, what my mom believes what caused me was that she ate fish during her first trimester. Now, I don't know anything about like pregnancy and all that stuff. One, because I'm a male, and two, I'm not really interested in it. But and second, I can't produce a kid on my own. But you know, like being pregnant. But my mom says that she ate fish, in which for some fish it contains mercury during her first trimester, and she thought that I have autism. But what I believe, and this is just my own theory, is that autism is not caused by I think it's caused by the environment in which we live in. I mean, we're the only state that have the statistics so high. We're like #1 compared to like other countries around us. I think it's the environment. I think it's the pesticides, GMOs. I think it's anything that we eat, we breathe, and what we do. That's what I believe. Yes?
I have a few questions. If autistic people can't digest gluten or casein foods, does that make them like bloat or throw it up? Or?
Again, it depends on the child with autism. Now, autism. So basically, it used to be like two things. It's either high functioning or low functioning. At least that's when I was a kid. Now, they call it a spectrum because everything happens in between. There can be some kids that have high functioning compared to other kids, while there's other kids that may have low functioning. Again, it all varies. But to get back to your question, again, some kids might have digestive problems from gluten or casein, while some kids don't. I drink milk and I eat spaghetti, and I don't have any digestive problems. It just, yeah, I'm gonna leave it right there. Yes?
What about the studies regarding genetics?
Yes. There's not a lot of, I don't believe right now there's, like I was looking upon it and like, I don't know what, because my parents didn't have autism, so, and then my grandparents don't have autism either, not from my mom or my father's side. And all of a sudden like, I come out and then all of a sudden I have autism. So I don't think it's more of genetics. So it's still random. People don't know, and that's what a lot of people are freaking out on, in which they really shouldn't. There's really nothing wrong with autism. It's just more the fact that they just need communication. They just need to be headed in the right direction. That's it. Yes?
Do you think there are a lot of people with autism that aren't even diagnosed yet?
Yes, of course. There are a lot of people out there, a lot of children especially, that are either not diagnosed because the doctor doesn't know. And yes, I know some doctors don't know what autism is, and they got a PhD from online or something. But no offense to people online of learning, but Yes. But yeah, any more questions?
Yeah, well, what's, kind of throws a monkey wrench in all of these ideas. It's like you were saying, the males tend to be five times more than females.
Yes.
You were talking about GMOs and pesticides, and we talked about immunizations and all of that. That's what's so baffling to me, is why, I mean, you'd have more of a proportion of male and female if all those things like pesticides and immunizations and all that, you'd have more 50-50, but to have 5 times more males have that than females, that's what's so mind-boggling to me.
It is very mind-boggling. And I meet a lot of males that have autism, as well as females that have autism. Yes?
I wonder if hormones can play a role into that, because then, like, male and female bodies accept certain chemicals in different ways, so it might actually prove, like, kind of your theory. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
boys respond differently to your environment. Maybe
Right.
your bodies can't handle it as well, I don't know.
It could be. Again, we're all just, it's just all guesses right now. We don't really know, but we're making guesses. And there's still research going on and on about the causes of autism today. So, in conclusion, you have the knowledge of basically my experiences with autism. You know who the founders of autism, that's what I like to call them. The many symptoms, intervention, and possible causes of autism. And yeah, before you leave, this is what I really want you to know. Autism is very common here in the U.S., 1 in 68. It's number 1 in the whole world. There are many interventions and therapies out there, so that way, like, let's say, if you know someone that has autism, then you give them the right help. It's never too late. I would say the earlier the better, but interventions are always good out there. And even though we don't know what really causes it, it's still in development. We are still trying to find out what causes it. Now, I have one last thing to say. I'm different. I'm completely different. I think different. I act different. I see the world different. People have told me that I was not going to do anything. People think that I was going to be a special needs kid, someone that's going to be mentally challenged. But do you know who believed me? My mom. My mom worked with me so hard throughout my life, my 22 years of being here on this earth, and trying to help me become who I am today. And other people that help me are my friends and my family. And they were the ones that believed me. So if you know someone, or if you yourself have some type of disability or disorder, physical or mental, do not give up. You are what makes people amazing. And I want to tell every single one of you that if nobody in your life believes in you, then I believe in you. Now, like autism, if you do the right interventions, if you give them enough love, care, and support, you might find the picture in this. Because everybody with autism always varies. Maybe they have a special talent. Maybe they can learn the alphabet in a different language. Kids with autism are very special. My mom thought I was special. My family thought I was special. My friends think, my girlfriend thinks, everyone thinks. And it's a great motivation. And like I understand that there are kids with non-functioning form of autism, but think of it like this. If you get the right treatment, the right interventions, you may make them whole. You may make them feel great about themselves. Maybe they're going to be the next Bill Gates. Maybe they're going to do something extraordinary. It's all about in believing. And you just got to believe in them. And that's what makes them whole. And if I could finish this.
Cody,
Yes.
I'm very proud of you. I knew him from kindergarten to 6th grade. And one of the things I wanted to do was make him proud of himself. And we would, if he was not having a good time in class, he'd come get me and we'd walk the campus and talk and talk. And then I showed him when his mom's driving and she comes to a red light or a stop sign, and he was in the front seat, passenger side, to look out his window and point up, and then stop and look at all the cars around you, and they're all going to be looking up. That's how powerful you are. And I'm just so proud of you. You've done such a magnificent job. And Mrs. Shaw.
Thank you, Mrs. Shaw. So, back to this. Thank you again, Mrs. Shaw. I'm not ignoring you, I'm just trying to. But yeah, you don't want to give up on them. You really don't. Because, I might just try to do this. Make it happen. So, any questions? Yes?
I just want to encourage you, my son, Asperger's, also didn't get his driver's license till his mid-20s, and he bought a car before he had his driver's license. It was a Jeep, which was one of his perseverations when he was younger. So he took his driver's license out of 15 feet and got it. So you can do it.
Thank you. And so, if you guys want to see the video again, there's a camera over there. My channel is on here. It's called the Autistic one. Over there, I post like a lot of computer animation stuff up there, and that's what I want to do. I want to work for Pixar now, so I do like a lot of that stuff up there. So if you have any friends, family members that can't come today or something, I'll post it on here. All right, and you guys have a good day. Thank you.